Okay, guys, welcome back. Thank you for watching. I believe this is number 5 in our Dreams and Visions series. And today we're going to be talking about Joseph, just kind of diving into the very beginning of the story of Joseph. And he's super popular when it comes to dreams in the Bible. I think that when people think about dreams in the Bible, they think of one of two people, Daniel or Joseph. Okay, and so that is Joseph the dreamer that we're talking about. Obviously, there's other Josephs in the Bible. But as we've learned so far, and will continue to learn, Joseph and Daniel were not the only people, the only accounts in the Bible where God spoke in a dream. Okay? So, a little bit of a backstory. Remember that where we left off, Jacob was on his way back to his hometown, so to speak, okay? The land of Canaan. All right, so we are in Genesis chapter 37, and I switched this on you last week, last video, video number 4, but I predominantly, in my time of studies, read from the NKJV, but I was talking with my husband, and I found that NLT actually is a much more clear version to be using for Bible study and teaching. So we are using the NLT, and you can easily access Blue Letter Bible, which is a free source. They have so many tools. You can search right in here at the search bar, dreams, visions. Make sure you put an asterisk after it so that it can easily, look for. So that way, when you're looking for dreams, you're not just looking, for the word dreams, but dream, and so on. Visions, vision. Okay, so that way it will pick up all of those things. Okay, so just a quick tip for you. All right, so we're picking up in Genesis 37. And we're going to read, I think it's the first 11 verses. And then I have some notes to go over. Also, before I get into this, one quick announcement. If you don't see another video posted of this for a week or so, do not worry. I did not forget. I will get it as soon as possible. I'm taking an online course and I have final exams coming, so I don't know how much time I'll have to get to this. So, but I don't want to go any longer than missing 2 weeks, so I will get on it. Okay. All right, Genesis 37, starting in verse 1. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. Yeah, why don't we name our daughters that, huh? But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things that his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe, right? The coat of many colors. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't even say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine." So just to pause here, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but we're doing 2 dreams in this video because it's right here in the same chapter. So his brothers responded, "So you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon, Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. "Listen, I've had another dream," he said. "The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me." This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he asked. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you?" But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. So we're going to stop there, and then I will summarize the rest of the chapter for you because it's going to be important for the next video. All right, so let's go back up to the top, and I'll get my notes out. All right, so first of all, he's traveled back to the land of Canaan, like I said. That was important to the previous video that I did, where Jacob leaves Laban and comes back to Canaan. Okay, so Joseph is about 17 years old here, and remember that Bilhah and Zilpah were handmaidens that were given to him by given to Jacob by Jacob's wives, and so they're kind of their children are half brothers to Joseph, and so it says that he would work for his brothers. Okay. But he would tell on his brothers, so he was kind of like a tattletale. And later on in the passage, it even says that the father sent him later to go check on his brothers. So it sounds kind of like his father might have actually been encouraging this for him to, hey, go check up on your brothers, see what they're doing. He would come back, bring a bad report. And so his brothers already weren't very fond of him. Joseph was probably a goody two-shoes, so to speak. It doesn't state that here, but he obviously knew to not get involved in the things that his brothers were doing. Instead, tell on them, right? Okay, so they're not fond of him as it is. Okay, so in verse 3, they talk about, okay, this coat was made for him. Well, or this robe. Some translations call it a coat, but I think if you've seen the videos that they make for kids, it's a coat of many colors, all these, different colors and stripes, and it's just this beautiful, coat that was made for him. Okay. And so his brothers were jealous of him. It says in verse 4, they couldn't even say a kind word to him. This is how much they hated him. Every time they saw him, they must have said nothing but horrible, mean things to him, because they couldn't even say a kind word to him. They hated him. They were jealous of him. And probably not just because Jacob loved him so much. He was the favorite, and it says it was because he was born to him in old age. But if you remember, it wasn't just that. It was because Joseph was the first child that Rachel was able to give Jacob. Okay, so he was kind of like the promised child in a sense, and so they hated him for that. He was favored, but not just favored by man, but I think they also were sensing God's favor, because God did favor Joseph and used Joseph mightily, if you know the story. And so he clearly had a gift on him and the favor of the Lord on him. And so the enemy doesn't like that. And it's not the person, but what's coming against the person. Okay. And so his brothers, they were not in right standing with the Lord, because you can't hate someone and be in right standing with the Lord, right? And so they hated this guy. So we know that they aren't right standing. Plus, Joseph reports that they're doing bad things. Okay. So they're not in right standing with the Lord. And the enemy is able to use that. Okay. And so he hates what God is going to do. These people just have their own, issues, but the enemy is using all this for his strategy and his agenda. But God, even higher up, has his own strategy, and we'll learn more about that. Okay. So, but just to note here in verse 5, it says, Joseph had a dream and they hated him even more. Okay, so first he's the favored one and they hate him, right? And now he's having dreams, and not just dreams, but dreams about them. Okay, it says they hated him even more. So if you think people, especially people who may already hate you or are already jealous of you, and already sense God's favor on you and don't like that, also the enemy sensing that on you, if you think that because God is speaking to you in dreams, that they're going to love you all of a sudden, that's more than likely not what's going to happen, okay? We are mistaken if we fall into that. Look, they hated him even more, okay? So just because you're coming out with your prophetic anointing, and you're dreaming, and you're learning how to interpret these dreams, and you can tell the future, and you can see what's going on inside people's lives, does not mean people are going to love you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But know that God's favor is on you, and that's far more important than anything man could ever offer to you. Okay. So Joseph tells them the dream, verse 7, right? And this is one of the first dreams that we see that is metaphoric. Okay, the last couple of dreams, they've been just flat outright what it is. So keep that in your mind. Also, I want to point out that, and that's just in this translation. I don't know what the other translations say, but it says suddenly. Okay, let's see if I can find it here. Verse 7. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up. Okay, so please write your dreams down. If you're a dreamer, please write your dreams down. They are so important. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But words like suddenly, words like then, all of a sudden, things like that, those transitional pieces are actually so important so that you know how things are going to happen. Okay, and so I just want to point that out here. I saw it there and it really stuck out to me. If you've seen more of my videos, that might make more sense to you. If not, just write down what I said. Remember to look at transitional words because they are important in the way, because sometimes God gives us a picture of things, a story, right? A dream of things, lots of different events. And we wake up and we think all those things are going to happen at the same time. And that's not the case. Sometimes he's giving us a picture of several years at a time, you know? And so it's very important to listen for keyword, write them down, write first, and then as you read them back over to yourself and study them and pray over them, listening for keywords like then I said, or then we went, or suddenly, those types of things, okay? And so the language is different in the Bible versus, they use Greek and Hebrew in the Bible versus, we're using English, and maybe some of you speak Spanish and other languages too. But I was going over this with my husband. We were looking up with the tools on Blue Letter Bible and some different tools that he's created for the company. And what's interesting about the last verse there, where in the dream, verse 7, it says, suddenly my bundle stood up and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. Okay, so that gathering around and bowing low before mine was not forced. It's something that they did themselves. They actively wanted to humble themselves. So the end result of that meaning, they were not forced to do this, but this was something that they humbled themselves and did. So that's what it means in that language. So going on to verse 8, his brother's response over here. He says, they say, so you think you will be our king, do you? Right? What's interesting and what struck me right away with this story, and who knows, how it's written and how many people it goes through and those types of things. But what I thought was really interesting is that they knew the meaning. They knew the meaning of the dream right away, And I think part of that is because dreams were so common. Dreams were very prominent, a very common thing. Is probably a main source of entertainment for them, right? I mean, you think about it, they didn't have radios, they didn't have TVs, they didn't have the internet. I think that it was probably pretty entertaining to dream and then wake up and have, oh man, that was weird, and chew on it for a little bit. But not only that, but they knew that dreams weren't just, oh, I ate too much spaghetti. They knew, they probably didn't have spaghetti, who knows, but but you know what I mean. They knew that it wasn't, wow, I was working too hard in the field yesterday, that's a weird dream. They knew that there was meaning to them. And I mean, they had, sorcerers and different things that tried to interpret dreams through other means instead of the Lord himself, right? And we'll see that more in different examples. Okay, but they were probably a source of entertainment and interest for them. And notice, again, it quotes it again in verse 8, and they hated him even more. So you can't win, Joseph. I'm sorry. They hate you. You're a dreamer. God's clearly speaking to you through dreams, but I'm sorry, they still hate you. So, all right, verse 9. Joseph has another dream. All right, and this time he tells his dad and his brothers. And he says, listen, I've had another dream. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. All right, so who are the 11 stars? The 11 stars clearly here are the brothers, right? And the sun and the moon represent the mom and the dad. Say, Kim, where'd you pull that from? Oh, the following verse, right? And, you know, had I not have known, I could pray and fast and the Lord would interpret that to me, okay? So in verse 9, it's a different dream, different symbols being used, but the same interpretation as the top dream, okay? And this is how the Lord speaks. And later on, we will see where Joseph interprets the dream and he says, because you dreamed it twice, it is already set in order. How would Joseph know that? Look, Joseph is a dreamer himself. That is the best way to learn dreams and dream interpretation, because you are a dreamer yourself. You have learned the language, okay? All right, so God speaks often like this, and he confirms. He will say it, and then he will confirm it, and that's the reason saying, nope, it's established and in order, and I spoke it twice, okay? But notice the need here for the Holy Spirit interpretation, and this is something I go on and on and on and on with my videos and talking about dreams and why we cannot just write down or pull out a dream dictionary, okay? Because what you're saying here is brothers inside of the dictionary, your possible dream dictionary would equal stars and grain bundles, right? No. And so that's not the case. So the next time you dream about stars, it doesn't necessarily mean your brothers, okay? The next time you dream about grain bundles, if you do, I've never dreamed about grain bundles, but it's not going to mean brothers, okay? That's just, it's what the Lord was saying. I mean, we look at how he spoke to Abraham and how he spoke to Jacob, and he talks about the descendants, the promise again with the descendants. And he's in one, it was look at the stars of the sky, can you count them? In another, it was look at the sands. Can you count the number of specks of sand? No, okay, but he was still talking about descendants either way. But that's just how the Lord speaks. He speaks in metaphors. He speaks, it would be like blah, blah, blah. Like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like. He kept saying that, and different stories came out. So that's just the way of the language with dreams and visions, okay? Verse 10 through 11, we see his dad's response to the dream, okay? So this time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? So, and it says obviously that his brothers were Joseph. While his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Other translations say he kept the matter in mind. Okay, so his dad was even offended. His dad was offended by this dream. And yet another thing, he seems to know the interpretation. Joseph did not interpret the dream. He just said, man, I had a dream, blah, 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 and they automatically seem to know exactly what the Lord was saying through these dreams, okay? So he's offended, but he seems to know the interpretation right away. And what's interesting too is that in all these accounts that we've studied of these dreams and visions up to this point, no one has responded. When someone said, hey, I had a dream, or the Lord told me in a dream, no one responded in the sense of, you're crazy. God doesn't speak in dreams. Everyone seemed to understand that that was a thing, right? No, it was a legitimate thing that took place. It was a way that God communicated. It is something that he placed inside of us to communicate with us. Okay, and he's the same God yesterday, today, and always. And it is his source of communication, but the enemy has come in to steal, kill, and destroy it, and pervert it, and make it into something that, ages down the line, Christians didn't even know that it was a source of communication. We thought it was all because we ate too much spaghetti, right? So, shouldn't have ate that spaghetti last night, right? Okay, so it says, while his brothers were jealous, he kept the matter in mind. Okay, write your dreams down. Write them down, please. I don't care whether you agree with them, whether you like them, whether you are afraid of them. Write them down. Okay, I've shared this in many of my other videos. I used to handwrite them. And then I started typing them. And now I have I have a app on my phone called Evernote, and I'm able to just speech to text right into there and have files upon files upon files, 6 years worth of dreams. I mean, thousands of entries in this. And it's really neat because you can keyword search when you're looking for a certain dream. It tells you what date it was created, so on. Lots of different things. But write them down. Even if the dream is from the enemy, I still write it down because it is curriculum. You will learn from it. You will come to know what is the voice of the Lord. What was something the enemy was trying to explain to me? What were, and so on. Okay, there's so many different things, different colorations of dreams and what those mean. And so write your dreams down. Keep the matter in mind. Okay, whether you agree with it or like it or not. He knew the interpretation, didn't like it, was offended, and still kept the matter in mind. And we have to remember that and I've skipped past this part, or like in my mind, kind of just like, right over my head, to remember that Jacob was a dreamer too. We just talked about Jacob and his dreams, okay? And so that's why he's keeping the matter in mind. He knows God speaks through dreams. And so even though he doesn't like the interpretation, he's keeping the matter in mind, okay? So we're going to just summarize the end of chapter 12, the end of chapter 12, from verse 12 on to the end of the chapter, because it's super important to know, if you've never read the story, what takes place right now before we get into the next dreams that take place that Joseph is involved in, okay? Or involved in interpreting. All right, so basically, Joseph is told after this to go and check on his brothers. His dad sends them because, his brothers love him so much. So his dad's like, hey, go check on your brothers who lived kind of far away, it sounds like, if you read the passage, okay? So they see him coming off in a distance. And remember, they can't even say anything nice to the guy. They're like, oh, here comes that dreamer, right? And they're plotting amongst themselves to kill him. They're going to kill him, right? But one of the brothers, Reuben, says, no, you know what, let's not kill him. We don't want his blood on our hands. But let's just throw him into this pit. Now, he was going to secretly take Joseph back to his dad when the other brothers weren't paying attention. So his brothers are like, yeah, let's throw him in the pit. So I don't know what happens to Reuben. I guess he's off doing something else. The brothers are eating lunch or something. And they see these Ishmaelite traders come. So they've already ripped off Joseph's, precious coat that was made for him, threw him into this pit, and now they're like, you know what? No, we can make a quick buck off of him. We will just sell him to these Ishmaelite traders. So they sell him to the Ishmaelite traders without Reuben knowing, because it says that Reuben comes back to this pit or well or whatever it is that didn't have water in it though. And he doesn't see Joseph, and he's freaking out like, oh my gosh, what am I going to tell my dad? Because he knows his dad loves Joseph very much, okay? So the other brothers sell Joseph to the Ishmaelite traders, which was Judah's idea, his brother Judah. They dip his coat in goat's blood and send the coat or robe or whatever back to Jacob and say, look what we found. Doesn't this belong to Joseph? In other words, implying he was eaten by a wild animal. It says that Jacob was grieving over him and said he will grieve over his son until the day that he dies. And mourning and mourning and mourning, right? But meanwhile, the Ishmaelites also sell Joseph, and they sell him to Potiphar, who is an officer of Pharaoh in Egypt. Okay, so that is where the story kind of cuts off. Just a couple things. If you think or have thought that because your God is anointed, that hard times and suffering would not come, that's another mistake that we make. Okay, it is simply not true. Especially as a prophetic person or a dreamer, you can go and look at the accounts of Joseph's life. You can go and look at the accounts of Paul's life, okay? So many others, and you will see that God does not spare his anointed from difficult times, sorrows, from sadness. If anything, there is more of an attack on their life. The enemy is constantly seeking us out, right? There's a scripture that comes to mind right now it's in Psalm, I believe, that says, "The wicked watch the righteous and seek to slay them, but God will not leave them in his hand nor condemn them when they are judged." And I also have another verse that the Lord gave me here in just a couple minutes. I will share that with you, okay? So, highly favored people of God go through very difficult and unfortunate situations and seasons, okay? But God, okay? We'll see that. We will see how God takes this horrible situation, the plots of the enemy, the plots of his brothers, and turns it around for the good of everyone involved in the situation, okay? So, but God. So yes, we pass through difficult times. Those who are chosen, those who are anointed, those who are prophetic people probably pass through even harder times. But God, okay? But God will redeem the situation. And so I have this really bad habit of, I'm like, Lord, speak to me. And God is speaking to me. And then I get so stirred and so excited by what he's sharing with me that I just like dance off and walk out of the room. My son does this, like literally in real life. And so he must have got that characteristic from me. And so I do this, and the Lord has told me about this. And so I try to change. I'm trying to be more proactive about not doing this. So as I finished doing this Bible study, and of course I prayed over it in the beginning, I asked for the Lord, please, tell me what you want me to say. Feel free to take out whatever I've written that you don't want in there, add more to it, whatever it is. So at the end of this, I said, Lord, I'm always so quick to cut you off because I'm so excited that you're talking to me, and I don't want that. I want them to get every last drop of what you have for them. So is there anything else before I close out this this teaching? Is there anything else that you want to add in there? And I heard him quote a scripture to me, and I had to look it up, and that is Psalm 34:22. And so I don't know who this is for, along with the scripture I just quoted, which was not in my notes, about the wicked watching the righteous and seeks to slay him, okay? But this is Psalm 34:22, and it says, "But the Lord will redeem those who serve him. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned." I think actually some of the translations say the life. The Lord will redeem the life of those who serve him. Okay, so that is Psalm 34:22, and we are going to close there. And like I said in the very beginning, if for some reason you do not see a video out in a few days or a week, don't worry, I didn't forget. I just have a lot that I'm trying to take care of, and I don't want to go longer than 2 weeks without getting this out. I'm trying to stay committed to doing one once a week, because if I don't, we'll be here for like 2 years trying to get through the whole Bible and all the dreams and vision accounts, okay? So God bless you guys, and I will see you in other videos.